and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Louis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself. Hola, ¿cómo está? How have you been? I have been on vacation for probably longer than I should, but been out playing and not doing podcasts, not working. And so, get back, check on things. And first thing I get back into the news feed and in Seattle is I hear about a missing zebra, right? And I'm like, what the flip, Rip? What's going on with the zebra, right? And it turns out it was a situation that turned into a whole big thing. And this whole missing zebra had friends. One of my good friends, economist Matt Thew, had it posted on a stage with him. Then I saw about a Seahawk jersey. Anyway, it was just kind of interesting coming back to news feeds. And I've actually limited any media stuff for quite some time. So I haven't seen CNN, Fox, MSNBC, UNBC, whatever NBC. I have not seen any of it. So I'm not really up on news. Most of what I'm getting out is Facebook and checking on the economy and meeting with lenders, investors, and talking with realtors and some people on my team and other people in different offices. And here's what I come to the conclusion with, and I want to just spend a few minutes a day and throw, 25 years of wisdom at you. And some insights that I have learned being in the business of housing and development and real estate for quite some time. And that is the word. What I'm hearing is we have a change in interest rate. The interest rate environment is affecting people's buying decisions. Prices of goods and services are, going up. Lenders are having difficulty with the purchase market because people are hesitant. Buyers are having issues with pricing and then the payments. I mean, some of these payments, at 750, I believe was the number, your payments $5,300 or, so people are, choking on that. And then of course you have the issues with realtors and the National Association of Realtors, the litigation, the Settlement Act, and things that are going on that's affecting realtors, affecting brokers in terms of how they treat buyers. And here where I'm broadcasting from in the Northwest, Washington State particularly, now requires you to sign a buyer agency agreement with every buyer that you do business with. Okay, that's a change. That's a change from previous relationship when it was kind of like a handshake and you could do a deal and, and you would be covered. You didn't need a piece of paper. But now all of a sudden you need a piece of paper to secure the relationship with a potential buyer. However, the buyers are not obligated to do that, right? So they're not under the law of that. It is the real estate broker. So we see all these different things, and probably a couple more that I'm not mentioning that you can name. And what I came up, and this is really an update from a previous conversation from a previous market that had changed, and where I can't remember what exactly was happening at the time, but there was a change. And what had to happen is people had to change, right? To change may create a change. And so what I just want to share with is pivot is the word that we used then. And I think it's appropriate now is we're seeing people have to pivot. This is a year of a presidential election and you have both sides, garnering for that really 1%, right? So, and when I say that, what I mean is 49% each side is already set, or 50% of each side is already set. So 50% is going to like one candidate, 50% is going to hate the other candidate, right? So that's set. What the politicians are looking for is the 1%. And that is the undecided, the moderate voter, the swing voter, right? That could change, that could go any way. And usually it's that person or that group that can swing an election. We saw that in the 2016 election. So politicians want you to pivot. If you're undecided, they want you to pivot over to their side. They want you to switch over to their side. And lenders want you, if you're a buyer, consumer, they want you to pivot. They want you to change, your thought about high interest rates or higher interest rates than the standard rates. I think for several years have been 3%. They're now 6-7%. I haven't checked them today, but let's just call it 6.5. Okay, so that's double. That means the payments are double. So what was 3,300, like I said, now it's 5,300, 5,500 plus taxes and so forth. So it can create a choke point for you. So in these kinds of situations, you have to learn how to pivot. And what is pivot and how do you pivot, right? So sometimes when I always use sports analogies, when a team comes out with a certain playbook against another team. So they got a certain playbook that they're going to run. It used to be way back when the Utah Jazz had a thing they called a pick and roll, and they would run this over and over and over and over again against teams, and the teams couldn't stop it. They knew it was coming, but they couldn't stop it. But then there were teams that played them enough, and they knew how to stop the pick and roll. So at that point, the Utah Jazz coaching team, they had to go to another playbook. Because why? The pick and roll is not working. It's not working on Michael Jordan. It's not working on some of the players that they were playing, because the players knew how to counter the pick and roll. So they had to pivot. They had to come up with a new strategy, a new playbook. And really, that's all pivoting is. Okay, you need a new strategy. What happens is sometimes we marry strategies, right? There's this big term out here right now is, date the rate, marry the house, whatever that connotation is. But sometimes we marry strategies because we're comfortable with that. We marry process. I work with organizations and they marry the process, right? And they date the results. Okay. And so pivoting really is about looking at the process and saying, sometimes the process needs to change to get me a different result. So let's go to the buyer. Okay. At the end of the day, if you're in the market, you want a house, right? You want a house, and that's why you're looking. Okay. But these high interest rates have now changed your strategy about what you can afford, what would be comfortable as a payment. So in order to do that, you're going to have to pivot. Okay. You're going to do one or two things. You're going to have to lower your expectations, which means I may have to have less house so I can get the payment that I want. So if my payment is $3,500, instead of looking at a $1.2 million house, I may need to come down to an $850,000 or $700,000 house, right? And I'm specifically talking about our Seattle Northwest market. If you hear me say that in Ohio, you're probably going, "What are you talking about? Like a 1.2 million, right? It's a lot of house, maybe in the Midwest." That's not a lot of house in the Northwest and Seattle, especially in California. So you may have to pivot in order to get maybe a smaller house. I started my career in real estate selling condominiums, right? And I remember the first condominium was like $99,000 way back when in the city of Bellevue, which is the high-end area for the Seattle area. And it was challenging selling those condos, not because of the price, right? Not necessarily because of the setup, but because it wasn't what people wanted. They wanted a single family home in Bellevue for $99,000, and that was not going to happen. And so as a new realtor, I had to persuade people to pivot and accept buying this condo as a gateway to home ownership. Then after they've owned it for a couple of years, then they could graduate up to maybe that first a townhome or a smaller single family home. But I persuaded them to pivot their expectations into this gateway. And it worked out for many. Many of them I saw many years ago, years after, and they would say, "Thank you so much for that conversation, because now we're having children. Now we have equity. Now we're going to buy up into something else." But what if they hadn't pivoted, right? What if they said, no, I'm going to hold out until I can get that house. And I believe at that time it was a single family house, like 400,000. So I can get that house at $400,000. They would have missed out because why? By the time they saved the money, the house they were hoping for at 400,000 is now 600,000. See, so that's why I'm just speaking to the buyers out there that are thinking about it. Sometimes you have to pivot. And it's not like you got to stay in the smaller place for 30 years. You stay in there 3, 4, 5 years, which is what most people are doing. Then you can move up. Now you move up with equity. You move up with more buying power. And you've already been established as paying a certain payment. So now, instead of starting out with a $5,300 payment as a first time buyer, I really only adding $1,000 to my monthly housing payment, which I can do, right? Because if you have a cost of living increase and raises, you should be able to keep up with that. So that's one example of being able to pivot. Real estate brokers, right? So let's talk to the real estate brokers for a minute, because they're having challenges pivoting with all of a sudden needing to sign buyer brokerage agreements, and people are struggling with that, and they're not doing a good job. I'm probably thinking maybe 50% of people are getting those documents signed, and the other 50% kind of winging it. I am a designated broker for several firms, and so I see the paperwork. So I know that people are winging it, they're waiting to the last minute to get the documents signed. Okay. So one of the things that the real estate brokers have to do is they got to pivot. They need a new conversation. They need a new script. Remember that real estate is based on relationships, not transaction. So if your goal is to get somebody to sign that document for the purpose of doing a transaction, you've lost out already. You've lost out already, because they can see that coming. And now they may not want to be locked into having to do a transaction with you. Why? Because we don't have a relationship. If somebody asks me to sign a contract for the purpose of a transaction and I don't know them and they don't have credibility with me and trust with me, it's going to be hard for you to get me to sign that. I'm going to have to be in a pretty desperate situation just to sign off on an agreement with somebody that I really hardly know, that I met at an open house, I talked to once, text a couple times, and now you want me to get obligated to ensure you get a commission when you complete a transaction. Okay, I get the house, you get the fees. So part of the pivot has to be with real estate brokers is you have to build relationships. How would you do that if you had a long-term relationship? If that was family, if that was somebody, one of your favorite celebrities or mentors, or somebody you looked up to, would you throw a piece of paper in front of them and just say, sign here? No, you wouldn't do that. You would work your way up. You would build a relationship. You would make ensure that there was trust there, that there was some integrity there, and then you would give them the opportunity to enter into a relationship with it. So the challenge with brokers is that they've been used to just playing fast and loose, because when inventory is low, there's a high demand of buyers, and buyers are willing to pay anything in order to get those homes and get those deals. Average list goes over 4 to 5% over list, sometimes in strong markets, maybe higher in some cases. So when you get used to that, and all of a sudden, bam, that's cut off, because now the interest rates are high. Buyers are hedging on that. All of a sudden, now you got to have a buyer brokerage agreement. They're hedging on that. You got to pivot. Pivot. You got to change your strategy. The pick and roll is not working anymore. The slam dunk, sit down and put down a transaction and how high will you go ain't working anymore. You need a new strategy. Okay. And sometimes it takes people time to change. People don't quickly adapt, right? And once they adapt, they don't want to change. And especially newer agents that came into business with the idea that it was full of money, gold was falling out of the air, real estate transactions, and they're getting or find out, boy, this is hard work. So newer agents have the opportunity to come in with the current mindset that's needed in order to do that. It's the existing agents that have been in the business for any length of time that is used to a certain way of business going, you gotta pivot. That's really all it's about. And let's talk to the consumers. Consumers are paying more for gasoline. They're paying more for big screen TVs. They're paying more for every little item, staples and things of that nature. I'm just noticing everything is going up. Okay. Well, all right. So then I got a choice. Either I don't buy gas, I get an electric car, I stop eating, right? Maybe I'm fasting 4 times a week. Uh, but I'm going to have to make a change. I may have to make a change in my budget. I may have to make some adjustments so when I have to pay that high price, I'm getting a better ROI on what I'm investing in. We're seeing right now that credit cards are going up to an all-time high. People are going in debt over credit cards. I mean, average balances. I mean, some of these numbers are, 75, $100,000 in debt over credit cards. So that means people have been paying with their lifestyle with credit, and now they've run their max, and now things are still high. They haven't come down. So got to pivot in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of how you're spending. If you're trying to keep up with the Kardashians, you may need to back off that a little bit. You can't get everything brand new that comes out. People get in, I got to have the brand new this, I got to have the brand new that. Oh, I had this car for 2 years. Now I need another car. So you may need to be pivoting in your lifestyle until this passes or another source of income. Here's a thought: create another source of income, pay for the extra things that you want. How about that? You go out, right? We see people doing it. They're doing DoorDash, they're doing Uber, they're starting cosmetic lines, they're becoming Instagram famous models, they're doing TikTok, they're getting monetizing their videos, they're paying for their extra way. So if I want something new, I create a new revenue stream for it. So for consumers, if your job's not covering it or your current income, you might need to sit down and think about how can I get another revenue stream so I can keep the lifestyle that I want, or I make an adjustment on lifestyle for time until my income streams up. So these are just some of the things I think are good, some examples of pivoting. And so you have to sit down and, just take a minute, self-check. Where's my mindset? What do I expect? What do I need to adjust? How has my past been compared to how I'm making decisions now? What changed? So whatever change is where the pivot has to take place. And like I said, that might be resetting expectations, getting a new strategy, right? Getting some coaching, right? This might be a time for some of you to hire a coach, hire accountability coach to kind of look at what you're doing, to look at your finances, look at your lifestyle, look at your business model, look at some of your decisions, and they, from an outsider, might have some better perspective and ideas. There's no saying that sometimes when you're in the forest, you can't see the forest for the trees. Sometimes when you're in the middle of your situation, you can't see it because you're in the middle of it. And sometimes you need somebody on the outside of it to take a look at it and say, well, I see this a little bit different. So I think just some quick examples. I mean, they're not all the answers. I'm not saying I know every situation out there, but just getting back and getting an update tells me that there is a need to pivot. There's a need for some new strategies. There's a need for some folks to reset some expectation. There's a need to get some new scripts. Realtors, you got to have to get some new conversation scripts. The old ones are played out, need to upgrade. Finally, as an example, look at Las Vegas. Vegas is an example of just pivoting. Las Vegas has a habit of changing restaurants every 18 to 24 months, whether it needs it or not. Okay. They will change the format of a restaurant, of a club, or a scene check it out, every 24 months, 18, 24 months, something new is coming in the place of something old. So Las Vegas understands that to keep you spending money down, if you go down there, they need to always have something new, something exciting, something different. If you keep going down there and it's the same old, same old, same old, then you're going to stop going, right? But if you go down there and this week it's a new restaurant, this week it's a new venue, this week it's a new activity. They do that on purpose to keep you excited about coming back again. They're constantly pivoting. So that is a real life example, economic, entertainment example, business example of an organization or an area that understands the power of pivot. Hope you do too. Thanks for taking time to join us in studio. We'll be back with a couple more segments in a couple weeks. I'll keep getting it going. But otherwise, stay strong and keep being the best version of yourself.
Every great champion knows that success, overcoming, and winning in life is no accident. Creating individual success is like having a recipe for a great meal. It only works if you know how to use the ingredients. As a best-selling author, entrepreneur, business coach, strategist, and champion, the Lewis Howard Live Show provides you the insider's view on winning. All we do is win, 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 helping you become the best version of yourself.